Here we go. So welcome back to another edition of Three Questions. We're really excited today to have Dr. VanShaack with us, who is the lead instructor for HOD 2500. Probably everybody watching this video had him, or he took just a brief leave of and went on a great Fulbright, which he just returned from. But most of you probably had him for HOD 2500 systematic inquiry. So thank you for being with us today.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
And I know we've spent a little time talking before we hit record about what the students are doing in the capstone program and with their curriculum. And one of the things that I've shared with you is they write these retrospectives where they're asked to think back on their earlier coursework and how what they learned in HOD is really applicable to organizations and communities that they're working in and with. So that leads me to my first question, and that is, what do you see as the most important qualities or competencies that students bring from HOD into organizations and communities?
Yeah, great question. And it's one I think about a lot because I'm very interested in structuring my course in a way that's going to prepare students to be really successful out in the world, both as citizens and as employees, members of teams that try to accomplish objectives. And so I frequently talk with graduates, who I've connected with on LinkedIn or Facebook, and I see at alumni events. And sometimes I talk with members of organizations that are recruiting students, as I know you do, Kristen, and ask them, what do you like about the students you're getting? What do you wish you would get more of? And so I spent a lot of time trying to think about how to sort of tweak the course in ways that really prepare students to be successful in the world. And so the things that I think about, and the way that I look at learning is there's really three domains: knowledge, skills, and attributes. So knowledge is stuff that you learn in books. And as you'll recall from HOD 2500, we talked about threats to internal validity, or definitions of quantitative research and qualitative research, or, what are the variables, the relationship between them, and who are the subjects. Remember all that stuff that I asked you to sort of memorize, and I wanted you to commit to memory so that then you could use it in the future. That's knowledge. Skills are things that you can do. Sometimes people think of what are called psychomotor skills, like throwing a ball or flipping an egg, or, it could even be using Excel to perform certain functions. I use Excel to massage my grade book at the end of the semester, drop quizzes and things like that. Those are skills. And then the third domain are attributes. Attributes are things like, I work with the military: honor, courage, and commitment. They're things like resilience and toughness, or being resourceful, or having integrity. And that's something I've really been focusing on. And I'm going to be developing a new course on attribute development. And I think that we do it in our department pretty well, maybe more so than other departments I've been associated with. But if I was really honest with you, and of course I am, I think it's really going to be the attributes that employers are looking for. Warren Buffett said, I look for three things in a great employee. I want somebody who's hardworking, I want somebody who's intelligent, but I want somebody with integrity. And integrity is the most important, because if they don't have either one of the first two, you're rarely in trouble. Right? Or, if you don't have integrity, you're in trouble with a smart person who works hard, but is dishonest. And so I think that what we were trying to do with a lot of what happens in the classroom is, of course, to help you develop knowledge, develop skills, and your ability to apply those in practical ways. But we're trying to create an environment where there's integrity, environment where we're looking for punctuality, where we're looking for resilience and a little bit of toughness, because we want to provide feedback to you that's really meaningful. And in that safe environment of the classroom, we really are thinking deliberately about doing that. And so I think really thinking about character, thinking about being kind of the best intern or the best employee that you can be in terms of character, is probably what a lot of employers really admire most about HOD graduates.
Yeah. No, I think that's great. It makes me think, my mind goes all these different places when people are talking. And I think what you said really reinforces two of the mindsets that we really emphasize in capstone. And one is learning from others. So they are sitting down intentionally and having these conversations, hopefully on a weekly basis, where they're giving and receiving feedback. They have these midterm performance evaluations, final performance evaluations. And so that in itself is an incredible opportunity that, so many undergraduates do not engage in before they get into the
Yep.
real world. And then that idea of like critical reflexivity. So kind of
Hmm.
stepping outside yourself and, thinking about like, more of how am I going to learn from this person? How am I going to empathize and,
Yep.
just kind of to show up. How am I going to show up? So I love that answer. Thank you. And it also makes me think about the next question, which you framed it as knowledge, skill, and attributes. And that's exactly the way that they're thinking about learning goals. So the
Hmm.
students had to put together a learning goal for the capstone curriculum to think about their future. And so some of them actually developed, like, learn how to, master Excel, like you mentioned. I hadn't thought about the flipping eggs, but I like that idea. Learn how to flip an
Yeah.
egg.
Yeah.
And that's one example, right, of planning for your future and
Right.
being like really self-directed. Can you think of any other specific strategies or people that have been influential in helping you navigate your future and next steps?
Yeah. I mean, I want to preface what I say with this quote that I love. The way of the Zen master is to find their own way. So I can tell you what I would do, Kristen, and of course you would have your story and Heather would have hers, and everyone kind of has their interesting path that got them to where they are today. And mine was pretty circuitous and a little sketchy along the way. I think you know that I was a college dropout until I was 37. And I went back and finished my bachelor's degree and then went straight in and got my PhD. I probably wouldn't recommend that to students at Vanderbilt because you've already paid a lot of money for your education. Don't drop out. But even dropping out, I dropped out to take a good job. But there's a lot of ways to get through life. And I think part of it, you do want to have a plan. It's sort of like going on a long road trip. We kind of know we need to hit these cities, and you're
Mhm,
thinking about how far you're going to get. You're thinking about which hotel you're going to stay at. You know how vacations can go, family vacations. But along the way, we may stop a little bit earlier and we may stay a little bit longer. We make some adjustments as we go because lots of cool things happen that are unexpected.
mhm, mhm,
The trick with serendipity is you have to be looking for something for you to discover something that you weren't expecting. So you have to be
mhm,
looking in the first place. So I'm a big believer in doing lots of cool things outside of class. One of my
mhm,
favorite interview questions is, tell me something cool you're working on. I'm not really
mhm,
interested in your GPA, not really interested in the classes you've taken. I mean, those things are cool, but I can read them on this
mhm,
piece of paper here. But
mhm,
tell me something you're doing that you're really passionate about. And what I'm hoping
mhm,
for is I see a sparkle in your eye and I
mhm,
see excitement and I see sort of enthusiasm. I'll say what's gone well, what hasn't gone well. And I see how you're applying different kinds of knowledge or skills or different attributes to persist,
mhm,
and move beyond failure because failure is a requirement for success. And so I guess my big tip for you, if this was a last lecture of some kind, is yeah, have a 5-year plan, but be willing to abandon it, when new opportunities
mhm,
come about. And how are
mhm.
you going to get new opportunities? By doing stuff, by meeting
Yeah.
people, by working with people or for people, saying, what can I do to help you out? And as you said,
Mhm,
Kristen, really learning from people, seeking feedback,
mhm,
listening to what they have to say,
mhm,
not
mhm,
seeking confirmatory information about how great you are, being
mhm,
humble.
mhm,
So, it comes time to plan for the future. I think plan to develop a set of universal skills, universal
mhm,
knowledge, universal attributes, because the world's going to change really dramatically with artificial intelligence, with automation, with how quickly things are modifying it or, changing in
mhm,
the world. You need
mhm,
to be flexible,
mhm.
and resilient to be prepared for opportunities when they pop up.
Yeah, I think that's great. So again, makes me think of a couple of things. One
Hmm.
is just this whole idea of iteration. We talk a lot about that and prototyping. So you're going out and
Sure.
kind of testing it out and then changing it, updating it. Because, in the student's case in the capstone program, what their supervisor may want from them today may look totally different this time next week because of something that explodes in the office or
Sure.
happens in the external environment. So just really being open to the idea of iteration. I think that's a great emphasis there.
Mhm.
And then just leaning into something that you enjoy, that be curious.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
like with the learning goal, it doesn't have to be about Excel. If you don't like Excel, don't do that as your learning goal. Maybe it's
Right.
about wellness and yoga in the workplace, or cooking with your colleagues, or whatever
Yeah.
it might be. But just
Sure.
go and follow your interests, because that's really it's gonna help you with your next steps the most. I
Yeah.
like that.
And prospective
Awesome.
employers are going to be looking for that sense of curiosity,
Mm-hmm.
that passion that you have for anything. Like I'm telling you, Kristen, I could talk to somebody about decorating cupcakes. I could talk to them about knitting, fly fishing. And, sometimes you sit on an airplane next to somebody, you find out they have a
Mm-hmm.
hobby and it's,
Mm-hmm.
racing radio controlled cars. Like, really? So tell me all about that. And then
Mm-hmm.
they just get fired up. I think employers are
Mm-hmm.
looking for people, and your coworkers are looking for people who are interesting and have
Mm-hmm.
interests.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. This was really fun. So thank you so much. And any other final tips or strategies that you want to leave with the students as they plan for maybe life after capstone, life
Yeah.
after Vanderbilt? Any final words?
Yeah. Excuse me. I think I'd like to answer that slightly different, if I may.
Sure.
I could say, so, this is a retrospective a little bit. What did I learn from HRD 2500? There's a slide that you can look at, but what I want to remind you listeners to this, is we started the semester talking about what it means to actually know something, right? It has to be true. You have to have some evidence for it, and that can build your confidence. And really the big part of that was the evidence. How can I be sure of what I know? What is the quantity and quality of evidence to support that? And so when you are on the job and somebody says, what do you think? They're not just asking you for your personal opinion. They're
Right.
asking for some really good recommendation based upon the best evidence available. And so it's all about asking good questions. So we had a formula in the class. If it's quantitative, what are the variables, the relationship between them, and who are your subjects? If it was qualitative, what's the central phenomena? Who are the participants? What is the setting or the site? And I know that seemed a little academic at the time, but if you can frame tasks being given to you and the information that you're being asked to collect and to present in the form of those questions, it'll help you to focus on how to find the best evidence to do that. And I want to remind you, and this will be my final point here, the best source of information about, that science can tell us, there's difference about values, right? But science can tell us are through systematic reviews. And so if you just type in whatever your project name is, and you don't have to be too sophisticated, and then type in systematic review, I'm telling you, in 10 minutes, 15 minutes, you're going to find some really good articles that help to define the constructs, that talk about how people have approached the problem in the past, and maybe even recommendations for practice. Bring that information into your employers. And when you make recommendations, it's not just your opinion, based upon all of your 20 years on this planet, but it's based upon the best scientific research that's available. And hopefully HRD 2500 gave you not just the tools, but sort of the disposition, that research reflex. If somebody asks me a question, I'm going to tune that question up. I'm going to search for the best information available. I'm going to sift out the really crummy stuff. And as you'll recall from class, there's a lot of it. Find the gems, consolidate that information, and present it clearly and concisely. I'm telling you, you will be a rock star, right? So that's my recommendation.
Great. Yes. So without even knowing it, you told them to do a good job with what we call their empathy guide in their capstone coursework, which they're documenting all these conversations and resources that they're using to make sure they make informed decisions and systems research projects and all kinds of great final deliverables. So come and see all these projects come together at demonstration day, please. It would be really fun to have you there.
Yeah, and I'd like to offer to the students, you know how to get a hold of me, Andy at Vandy. You can find my email address. If you are off somewhere, and it could be on your internship or it could be after you graduate, and you say, hey, Dr. VanShaack, tell me a little bit about what's going on in your life. I remember something from your class that might be relevant. Those emails, Kristen, you know this, those are the ones that really touch my heart. They make me smile. They make me want to go back in the classroom after a tough day. I would love to hear from you, and I'd love to help support your efforts as you move forward. So if you got that feeling in class that I care about you, that care is still there. Wow, that rhymed. And please contact me if there's something that I can do to help you as you move forward.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure, Kristen. Great talking with you today.
You too. All right.